Okay, hi everyone. Thank you, Fergus, and thanks for inviting me to speak today at this celebration on behalf of Catholic Concern for Animals. I've been asked to speak briefly about the work of Catholic Concern for Animals, and in particular the work of the last 12 months during this this horrible year of the COVID-19 pandemic, which we've all just endured, literally just about a year now since the UK went into its initial lockdown, and also briefly perhaps about our plans for the next 12 months. So roughly to say what we've been doing as an organisation in the last year and what we plan to do for the next 12 months in effect. However, when I was thinking about preparing for today, I noticed that it's worth noticing for us all that today is the International Day of Forests. So on that basis, quite a bit of my talk will concentrate on deforestation and the horrors of deforestation for animals, and indeed for humans, particularly for indigenous people, and what CCA is trying to do in the areas of forests, and to try and combat the horrors of deforestation on behalf of the animal creation, but also, of course, of the human creation. We, as was mentioned earlier, we are interdependent, and we cannot forget that we're all animals, human and non-human, and we have to work for all creation. It's actually, I think, a fair point to say that one of the biggest threats to the planet is caused by deforestation, and it's not only threatens, as I said, the wildlife that lives in these areas, the forests of the world, but it also has a much more wider effect. As deforestation is often, not exclusively, but often caused by what is known as the global greed for meat. And the clearance of virgin forest, again, not exclusively, but often the case, is just for the industrialized farming sector. And the destruction of natural habitats that then ensues is a huge and significant loss of biodiversity. One of the major problems of biodiversity loss we face and have faced for some time. Now, one of the things that we often hear about, quite rightly so, is the deforestation in the Amazon region. And of course, this is critically important and extraordinarily worrying. But it's not the only area of the planet that is affected by deforestation, and other areas often get not forgotten, I would say, but perhaps overlooked sometimes when the images of the Amazon are forefront. And just to go through a few areas that I want to talk about other than the Amazon. For example, the Philippines, which is a massively Catholic country, as is the areas of the Amazon, of course, Brazil, not least. The Philippines, in 1900, 70% of the Philippines was covered in forest. By 1999, that was less than 5%. I'll just repeat those figures. 1900, 70% of the Philippines covered by forest. 1999, less than 5%. That is absolutely incredible. It's horrendous figures. And we don't often talk about it. And certainly not in the public sphere anyway. But then I want to just, I mentioned the Philippines, I want to talk about sub-Saharan Africa, another area that is massively affected by the devastation of the loss of the forest. And I want to talk about one or two areas in particular. Well, just on a global scale first, I mentioned the Philippines loss. If you look at the global scale, including all parts of the world, it's estimated in the period 1980 to 2020, an area more than 25 times the land mass of the UK has been lost. A forest area, 25 times the land mass of the UK has been lost in that 1980 to 2020 period, in what is known as the developing world. Not an expression I'm greatly fond of, but is one that is often used. And this has been lost to new industrialized farmland. And about 10% of that loss is tropical rainforest, tropical forest, sorry. 10% of that huge amount is forest. And this situation has been worse. You know, it's got worse and worse. And what's particularly concerning, again, back to the Amazon, is the implication of government. And in the Brazilian government in particular, at the moment, has been awfully implicated in the loss of rainforest. And it's actually, you know, it's been actively supporting deforestation. And of course, as I've said before, it's a local wildlife that we often think about with Catholic concern for animals. But the indigenous people and their lifestyles and their lives have been horrendously affected by this deforestation and the destruction of the Amazon. Now, I want to go back to sub-Saharan Africa. And one of the areas that is interesting, and again, doesn't get a lot of publicity for various reasons, is West Africa. And for example, logging activity in Liberia showed that millions of hectares of land, roughly about a quarter of the Liberian landmass, have been affected by illegal logging. And this report is from 2018, showing these figures. And it's actually probably got worse again in the last 3 years. And the illegal logging that takes place often destroys fresh water and fish resources. Again, we don't often, as an animal advocacy movement, think about fish that much, and we should. And certainly CCA, we're trying to do that. Massively affecting the water resources and the creatures, including the fish that live there. But the situation in Liberia is not unique. And it is in all areas, mentioned the Philippines, other parts of Africa as well. So deforestation is a horrendous thing that we talk about a lot, and we often talk about the Amazon, but it's much wider than we first realize. And the effect on people and animals is absolutely appalling. Which brings me back to what CCA have been doing. And going back to Liberia, we've been developing links over the last 2 to 3 years with senior individuals in the Liberian government and senior academics in the University of Monrovia. And we were delighted when a representative from the university, who also has very important links with the government, attended the recent Catholic Concern for Animals Fish and Marine Welfare Conference, indeed, that we held in January. That was one of the highlights of our year in lockdown. It was a virtual conference, of course, whereas originally it had planned to be a normal face-to-face event at the University of Roehampton. We had to put it on virtually because of lockdown, but we're delighted that people, including our colleagues from Liberia and other African countries and other parts of the world, indeed, as well as Europe, attended. And we're particularly delighted that we had a major statement on behalf of Cardinal Peter Turkson from the Vatican. And also, not only did we have the written statement from Cardinal Turkson, but we had Dr. Tebaldo, a senior representative of the Vatican, senior official in the Vatican, gave a 40-minute question and answer session at that conference. Now, it's not often that people get the chance to quiz the Vatican. I've said this before, on any particular issue, and certainly on the issues that concern us at Catholic Concern for Animals. So it was a great opportunity for the people who attended that conference to quiz a senior member of the Vatican on issues regarding fish and marine welfare and water policy more generally. And for anybody who is interested, that conference was recorded, and you can see all the presentations from the conference on the CCA YouTube channel, which was launched last year. Now, one of the other major players, of course, in this area, apart from obviously we're delighted to have the Vatican involved, is the United Nations. And the United Nations are having a major forum on forests on the 26th to 30th of April in New York. And of course, we're not allowed to travel, so we will not be there, but hopefully we'll be able to see it on technology, Zoom like this is being done. And CCA will certainly be following that forum with great interest. And I'm waiting for details of the transmission of that. But it's clear that the UN are still taking forests very important, and they have this major forum in April. Now, I'm delighted to say in the last year, one of the things that CCA has done is become an NGO official partner of the United Nations. And we are now officially a member of the United Nations Environment Programme, which is based in Nairobi, Kenya. And we're also members of the United Nations Environment Assembly. And we work there and do work there and are working there very, very hard to ensure that the animal voice, the voice of the voiceless, is heard in environmental discussions within the United Nations. And as I've said, the UNEP is based in Nairobi. I think that's the only body of the United Nations that is in Africa, actually. The only major area of United Nations work that is based in Africa. And it's a very big tribute to Kenya and the work that Kenya doing on animals, that the UNEP are based there. And just to mention Kenya, that has a very, very good record compared to many, many places on its animal protection. And I think we should praise Kenya for the work that the government have done there, as opposed to other places, and I've just mentioned Brazil, who seem to take an opposite view on looking after their environment and looking after the animals and people that live in their territories. Now, CCA are also members of the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Fauna and Flora. That's a long mouthful, but it's often called CITES to make it shorter. And we work with them also on looking at protecting endangered species. Many, of course, are in Africa itself, as we've just said. And we're also hoping to attend the COP26 in Glasgow later this year, another major activity for CCA this year. And we're already working and continuing to work between now and November, when the COP will be held, with the Catholic Bishops' Conference of England and Wales and our colleagues such as CAFOD to work towards impacting that enormously important COP26 later this year. Now, I said that we worked on a fish conference, and fish are one of our major activities this year and have been for a little while. And we're working on, continuing to work on our educational campaigns, one of which is to argue that fish should not be used as a fasting food to replace meat, land-based animal meat, when we have Christian and Catholic special times of year, such as now Lent and indeed Advent, when it's traditional for Catholics to be told to give up meat, to fast from meat, but they can eat fish. Well, we don't see any difference between fish eating and any other animal eating, whether it's lamb, chicken, pig, whatever it is people eat. We don't see why fish should be any different. And we've been doing quite a bit of work on that. We did some work with colleagues in the Czech Republic for Advent last year on the eating of carp as a fasting food in Central and Eastern Europe. And again, you can see the interviews on that on our YouTube channel. And we're currently working with colleagues in the United States, where fish is often used to replace meat at the moment during Lent. And again, we've got some interviews on that, which you can see. One of the things I'm particularly looking forward to, going back to the African context, is working with colleagues in Uganda on trying to talk about farming methods and the need for care of animals in farming in Uganda. We work with colleagues in clergy and laity in Masaka Diocese in Uganda. And we're putting together a major project with them to influence not only the church itself, but obviously parishes, Catholic schools, Catholic youth, and indeed the seminarians. And interestingly enough, the seminarians in Masaka have their own farm. So we're working on that farm with them to talk about farming methods. Now, I said that the farming methods of places such as Uganda are far, far better than the industrial farming that we see in the United States, indeed the UK and elsewhere. So we have a lot to learn from farming methods in Africa. And, you know, we'll be continuing to work with that. And we're very pleased with the care of creation stories and work we're doing with our colleagues in Uganda. And again, I'll refer you to our CCA YouTube channel, where there'll be a discussion uploaded very shortly with youth leaders and senior youth workers, Catholic workers in Uganda. So I'll perhaps have extended my time, so I'll try and come to a close, Fergus. A lot of the work for CCA has been badly affected by the pandemic, like lots of other organisations, and we've had to move in the last year to a more digital approach. And indeed, we put our flagship magazine, The Ark, into a digital mode. And that is now available digitally, our member magazine, The Ark. We introduced a new fortnightly digital newsletter whilst we couldn't get out of our houses to do our normal work. And we launched, as I've said, the new digital platforms such as the YouTube channel, and we've also podcasting the newsletter now. And these things will continue, even though hopefully in the next year, we will see a release from the lockdowns we've all had to endure. But we will continue with these digital platforms, or digital newsletter will continue, podcasts, YouTube channels, social media, of course. But also, God willing, we'll be able to later in this year, hopefully, get out and about as we normally used to do, and meet people and also meet colleagues from the Animal Interfaith Alliance who we've not seen other than on these computer screens for about a year at least. So we're looking forward to seeing everybody again as the vaccination process continues and the government allow us all to leave our homes. So that's a brief outlay of what we've been doing, what the key things for us will be in the next year. And so I hope that was helpful, Fergus.